Harrison Price for Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sekeres alongside Jeff Paterson sitting in for Blake Price today. Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. Blake is away on a little March break holiday. Thank you, sir, for coming on in. Resplendent in your green.
Yeah, I don't own a lot of green.
No,
and
nor
you've
do
seen
I.
from my golf game, I don't hit a lot of green. So
He's being modest.
Yeah, I thought I would try to do my part, so here I am.
Are the Pattersons Irish? Is there any Irish in the
No,
hands? No,
although,
they don't hear.
As people have pointed out, and this was not by design, but we have 2 children with very Irish names.
You do. Mm-hmm. Caitlin and Ryan.
Yeah, just worked.
Straight from the playbook.
Pretty much, just worked.
And a reminder, Brian Burke is not available today. It's one of 2 days a year where he's unavailable to Vancouver media. St. Patrick's Day and Christmas Day, right? Isn't that what Burkey always told a lot?
It was funny. I was thinking about that this morning, that Pat Quinn, obviously the big Irishman, and Pat was a player and then wore every other hat imaginable here with the Vancouver Canucks and is in the Ring of Honor. But really, 50-plus years of history, there aren't many Patricks, the current general manager, so 2 managers named Patrick, but Patrick Sundstrom is really the only Patrick of note that has played for the Vancouver Canucks. Again, Pat Quinn played for the hockey club, but there's not a long history of Patricks.
I don't remember Quinn making a big deal of St. Patrick's Day. Now, when I dealt with Pat, he was the Maple Leafs coach, and there was a very thick barrier between Pat and the Toronto Media Corps by design, by intent. But I still, every time this day comes around, I think of Brian Burke, and I'm like, I wonder what Burkey's doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Because for years, people on the beat would say, Brian would tell them, guys, reminder, St. Patrick's Day on Tuesday, I will be unavailable, and probably for good reason, because if you're an NHL GM and you're imbibing Dayside on St. Patty's Day, you don't need that call from the irksome reporter at 8, 9 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, but if you're a general manager of the National Hockey League team in mid-March, it's crunch time.
Is it? What are they doing now?
All right.
They're
yeah,
scouting.
I suppose the trade deadline's come and gone for a manager.
Yeah, the heavy lifting is done. Feet up. Enjoy yourself
We'll
with
give
St.
him
Patty's
St. Patty's Day.
Our daily poll question, does Nils Hoglander have a future with the Canucks? You can vote yes. You can vote no. Do so at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels. We've talked about Hoglander a little bit here over the last week and a half on the program. I'm sure you guys have on Rinkwide as well. Only not Saturday because he was scratched for that game against the Seattle Kraken. And we were all wondering, going, boy, Hoglander showed some things of here late. And he gets a healthy scratch.
Well, he was scratched against Nashville, and they won. And so they kept the same lineup. So it's the last 2 games. Yeah.
Forgive me, because you wouldn't want to change the winning lineup at this time of year with this team, right? But no, of course, setback by the ankle injury early in preseason. Another rough go here for Hoglander. He's on the PD program 2 straight years where things have been difficult for the Swedish winger. Now, what I will say is Adam Foote has him back in the lineup tonight. And Adam Foote gave a pretty elaborate answer yesterday, Jeff. You were there when asked about Hoglander. So we'll hear from the Canucks head coach and come back and discuss. Here's Foote.
Yeah, he's gonna play. We talked to Hoggy, work with him. We're trying to change just a couple of things he does when he forces it, right? The blue line work are getting doubled up quick because he just wants it so bad that if he can change that, it'll be more predictable, have more offensive zone time, and just we want him to make those decisions And we don't want him also to go into a game and feel like if he makes one mistake, he's going to be pulled. So we want him to have a little bit more, he play the right way. But he knows, and we have a great conversation with him. And, our coach has been working with him. He's got, with that injury, he got caught behind, and then, goal scorer wants goals, and we just want to correct a couple of things, and we'll hope to see him have a really good game tomorrow.
First, that second part, we don't want to pull him if he makes one mistake. Great, coach. Mm-hmm. Now live up to that, right? Like, give him some run. Nothing is at stake here. When he talks about changing a couple of things at the blue line and getting doubled up, so these are the decisions he's making at the offensive blue line, yes. Jeff, in terms of playing predictably. Who's the F1? Who's the F2? Who's the F3, right? Don't get too anxious, enthusiastic, go chasing a puck in an area where you're not supposed to be. Is that a fair assessment of what coach is getting at when he talks about decisions at the blue line?
Yeah, and I also think on his entries into the zone, when he's talking about getting doubled up, I think he is perhaps suggesting he's skating into traffic, into spaces where teams can then double him up, take him out of the play before he can do what he wants to do ultimately with the puck, which generally is try and get it in deep. But, that very first part of Adam Foote's answer there about just want to change a couple of things. I think Travis Green said that.
Yeah.
I believe Bruce Boudreau said that.
That's right. Rick Tocchet as
send him down to the minors, and Jeremy Colleton was the coach in Abbotsford at the time. Rick Tocchet said that on more than one occasion, and here we are with a fourth head coach that is still trying to change a 25-and-a-half-year-old who is in his sixth season in the NHL.
Yeah, and herein lies the problem with Hoglander, and I so want to vote yes on this poll question because the effort is there, and he's had some tough luck, and he is still young enough that he could factor as part of the next Vancouver Canucks competitive group. What I will say is you've got nothing to lose here for the remainder of this season. You likely have nothing to lose for next season. So if you're talking about a short-term future, then I suppose the answer is yes. I interpret the question more in terms of will he be a part of the equation when they're next competitive, Jeff? I have trouble with that now. I have trouble right now seeing that a couple of years down the road, whenever that may be. And I do so because it's hockey IQ, man. Like, it's just, there are things that you can teach, and there are things that when the pressure mounts out there on the ice and a guy just continuously makes plays, makes mistakes that you've tried to coach out of him, you get to a point as a head coach where you say, there's no helping this. As Boudreau once said about him, you're going to be a 40-goal scorer. I can live with the defensive miscues, but if you're a 20-goal scorer, you do have to play the other side of the puck.
And I think the further we get from it, the 24-goal season, as just about everything for every member of the Vancouver Canucks 2 years ago, is the outlier. Yeah. And I see a lot of people point to the 24 goals, and they were all at 5-5. Nobody can take that away from him, but it was a perfect storm. Like, Sam Lafferty scored 13 goals for the Canucks that season. Tyler Myers almost had 30 points. Like, everybody got theirs. They were a terrific hockey club. Top end produced, the bottom lineup, it produced too. That team isn't this team.
Yeah, and a reminder, Jeff, this is the second time we are pointing back to something in Hoglander's resume where we're hoping to recapture, because he had that wonderful 13-goal, 27-point in 56 game NHL debut as a rookie in the bubble season.
Right. So, look, 1 goal in 25 games, and you're entirely correct to point out the injury that derailed the start of the season. It's 1 goal in 25 games, though. Like, Max Sasson has 11 goals this season. Like, I feel like Max Sasson has passed Nils Hoglander on the depth chart.
Oh, for sure.
At a fraction of the price. And that's part of the problem, too, is that this is the first year of a 3-year deal in which Hoglander is making $3 million. Like, they bet on this player, and there's been nothing but regression since.
They bet on him bouncing back, Jeff, after a poor season, which always...
Well, here's my issue with Nils Hoglander. And I like Nils Hoglander. Likable guy. And yes, the energy is generally there.
Oh, sorry, they didn't bet on him because he was coming off the good season. He had the 1 year remaining.
Yes. But I want to see him get back, if he's going to be here long-term or longer-term, get back to being the pain in the ass to play against. the shit disturber.
Yep.
Like, I don't see that. Is there some hustle in his game? Guys used to chase him around the ice because they couldn't stand playing against him.
That's right.
There is such an opening and a vacancy on this roster now for that kind of player. And I think it's the kind of guy that fans would get behind. Not that the fans aren't behind Nils Hoglander, but I just find a lot of people make excuses for this guy that, he doesn't get the ice time, he doesn't get the line mates.
Well, that was the narrative, Jeff. I think that's dissipated.
You get 10 minutes, do something. Do the best you can. Make some things happen in limited ice time, and it can be done. And so I kind of get tired of this story of, the Canucks have failed him. Sorry, this is the NHL, and the league's not going to wait for you to refine or rediscover your game. So I don't discount that he did once score 24 goals, but he just doesn't look and feel the same player now. And I don't know. I mean, I would vote no on the poll question.
I was just going to ask.
That he feels like a candidate that needs a change of scenery.
Yep.
Now, we saw what happened with the guy that was taken ahead of him by the Canucks in that same 2019 draft. It's worked out okay for Vasily Podkolzin next door.
Yep.
And so there is some danger, certainly. You'd be a sell-low candidate without a doubt if you're trading him.
I've seen people draw the line about don't give up on him like Vasily.
He's going to be 26.
So, well, that's it.
Long.
The Canucks gave up on Vasily when he was freshly 23, a top 10 pick. This is a guy who'll be 26 in December, second round pick.
But also, all those
I
things
don't view that as a straight line.
Fair enough. But also, the things that Bruce Boudreau said and Travis Green, who had him as a rookie, but then it was Tocchet, now it's Foote, and not a single coach has felt compelled to try to develop him into a penalty killer of any kind because they see the defensive warts. And that goes back to your hockey IQ here. Yeah. So, we see guys all the time coming into the league with big numbers in junior or other leagues, and they have to adapt, and they've got to carve out a role for themselves. And yet, this guy hasn't been asked to do any penalty killing. He doesn't get a lot of power play time. And so, the path forward here, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
He will skate on a line with Ratu and Evander Kane tonight. At least that's how they lined him up yesterday at practice. Foote had some nice words for Ratu yesterday. It caught you a little off guard, you were saying.
Well, I mean, he said repeatedly, he's a coachable guy. He wants to get better. But again, in this season, where now development is paramount, and you can do this for just about every Canuck. I get it. It's been a garbage season, individually and collectively. But if we're looking at the development of Ratu, Matt, he's got 1 point in his last 24 games. This is a guy that people were banging the drum for him to be the third-line center out of training camp last season. And I think there are more questions now, as another year has almost passed by here, about Ratu, his foot speed, the growth of his game, and ultimately, they've got to find some guys that can produce. You can't sit here and just say he's a nice guy, he practices well, he's coachable. Push got to come to shove. There has to be a bottom line if this team is going to get better. And so I'm a little concerned, quite frankly. I want it to work for Ratu. The faceoffs are incredible. He is an elite faceoff guy, but that one skill alone isn't enough to keep you in the National Hockey League.
It's 3 goals. It's 12 points in 50 games for Ratu. It's 26 points in 98 NHL games. He is 23. Will be 24 in November. And you're right. You go through the young Canucks, Jeff, those who were here at the beginning of the season, set the Minnesota trade guys aside. But you're absolutely right. Hoglander has either stalled out or regressed. Ratu has stalled out or regressed. I want to say Carlson has made progress.
Yeah, I mean, he had a nice run around Christmas time to get the contract extension. Then he went quiet like they all have. But he's shown some signs of life here of late again.
And we'll get into that. Sassone certainly progressed. We've talked about Max. Vilander has progressed, but look, he's had some struggles here in his rookie season, although there was no real pro baseline there, so let's just... Okay.
Right, he's a raw rookie. This is his first look in the National Hockey.
DPD regressed.
Yep.
And then Mancini.
Oh, boy.
Certainly hasn't progressed.
No. And on this call-up particularly, and again, who have they played on this call-up? Winnipeg and
minutes
Chicago
there,
and
Jeff.
Nashville,
We talked
Seattle.
about the Myers trade. All of a sudden, Victor Mancini, like we are gifting
the underlying numbers, Matt, on this run
here.
for him are, they are warning. If you're going to go look at Victor Mancini's underlying numbers on this call-up, not very good against not particularly great
I know he
teams.
wasn't good Saturday, but can we say Tolopilo has progressed?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, but you're right. Saturday was not his finest.
Unfortunately. So there you go. Does Nils Hoglander have a future with the Canucks? Vote yes or no. Secure some price X and YouTube channels. Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Gavin the Good, Gavin the Bad, and Gavin the Great. Mentioned this yesterday, but Gavin McKenna, his season continues as Penn State has qualified for the NCAA hockey tournament, the so-called Frozen Four. The draw will take place on Sunday. We'll find out where McKenna is playing and who he is playing against with Penn State. And so, some final looks for the Canucks and other NHL clubs before stacking their draft boards and ranking prospects for June's NHL entry draft.
College hockey's down to single elimination. Like he may have
That's right.
just one.
He
game
may have
left.
one game left. Sorry, unless they're in the conference tournament final, he may have a couple of games left. Now, he does appear to have separated himself from Sweden's Ivar Stenberg, who ended his Swedish Hockey League regular season campaign on a cold snap. No points in 6, 1 point in 8. And McKenna is getting top billing now from a number of the different draft rankings, scouting services. We talked to TSN's Craig J. Button yesterday, who has him number 1. The Athletic Scott Wheeler, a new draft ranking dropped. He's number 1 there as well. But the nitpicking remains for a slight winger who still isn't a great shooter or an all-around player, not to mention the off-ice stuff, and the scouts will be investigating that to further inform their directors and their managers. When you crunch the numbers on Gavin McKenna's season at Penn State, as draft analyst Gabriel Foley has done, his season is so impressive. And here's the thing. When Gavin McKenna stepped foot on the ice for Penn State back in October, he was 17 years and 287 days old. He's still just 18 years old and 87 days today. Take a look at this chart. You see the average age by class of NHL players. A typical freshman, what McKenna is now, 20 years old, more than 20 and 3/4 years old. Now, a bit of context here. Freshmen are going to get younger going forward because you're getting these CHL guys who are now going there at 18 because of the NIL money. So this still takes into account sort of the old college system when you didn't get all these CHL transfers. But freshmen typically 20, a few months away from 21. And now let's bring the next graphic up, Mike. So nearly 3 years younger than your typical freshman, and yet his season points per game, 17th all-time by a U20 player. It's against 18 and 19-year-olds, too, he stacks up. The only one who was as young as McKenna on this list of 17 that you're seeing, or goes a little deeper than that, was North Vancouver's Macklin Celebrini. And if you take a look at this list, for those of you on visual platforms, I sort of remember Ben Eves and Andy Hilbert, but just about every other player on this list is, if not an NHL superstar, like a Jack Eichel, a Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah, that's a who's who.
An NHL star, like a Kyle Connor, a Cole Caulfield, or just a darn good NHL player. And there's a number of those on this list. I mean, Camilleri was a Barisi, Heatley, darn good NHL players, all-star players. So that is tremendous company to be keeping. Jeff. And you can understand why, as scouts dig deeper and do more comparative analysis, that McKenna is looking more and more like a number one overall. Now the bad. Now the punch-up outside that State College bar earlier this season, it isn't a red flag for most scouts. Others are wondering a little bit about McKenna's attitude. This from the Athletic piece on the weekend on McKenna. One scout said to Scott Wheeler, I guess with that, meaning the charges, the McGregor celebration, if you missed it a couple of weeks ago, he did the Conor McGregor billionaire strut, and zero detail in his game, I do have some whiff of immaturity or entitlement. So
seems a bit harsh.
Well, we're into nitpicking season here,
I hear
Jeff.
You, but, I mean, the goal celebration, come on. We want personality.
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. So
it came on the heels of the punch-up where, everyone's calling him a tough guy.
Zero detail in his game? And...
Well, the zero detail in his game part, look, scouts have had concern about his play away from the puck for a long time. We heard this at the World Juniors. Others don't believe he's grown his game all that much from Medicine Hat last year. Still others doubt he will live up to the Patrick Kane comparison, which is sort of the closest comparison for a smaller winger going first overall who doesn't necessarily have the blistering shot. So those are the pot marks, if you will. Those are the things that scouts are looking at here on a compare and contrast scale with Ivar Stenberg. On the size, and this was interesting, because some will say he's listed at 170 pounds. They've actually downgraded his height from 6 foot to 5'11". So I don't know if he got measured here. But 5'11", 170 pounds. And look, he'll fill out more now. He's not going to play in the AHL at 170. That'll move up. But I can understand how some people look at it and go, okay, it's not like you're drafting physicality with the player. It's funny because Matt Larkin of the DFO just did a first part in a series looking at the last 10 Stanley Cup champions. What's the recipe? What's the ingredients? Interesting work here. And these are Stanley Cup champions for the last 10 years. And Larkin says he's fading size as a playoff ingredient after Florida's back-to-back cups. The Panthers rank 18th and 25th in average weight in the NHL, according to Elite Prospects. Now, look, some of these teams were the biggest on the block. When Vegas won, they were the biggest, heaviest team in the NHL. Tampa's second cup, they were the second most heavy. In fact, top 6 for Washington, St. Louis, Tampa, 4 years successive J-Pad, and then a couple years later, Vegas. So you'll remember, we heard it a lot from hockey fans. Look at the size that's winning in the playoffs. Larkin says you go back to the back-to-back Pittsburgh Cups, which, of course, Rutherford presided over. They were the smallest or the slightest team in the league by weight. And Florida's come around and won with smaller teams pound for pound.
Yeah. Now, as I look at that list, and I thought maybe my computer screen was dirty, I don't see the Canucks in the champions column anywhere, first of all. But I'm assuming that's not a misprint.
We're not doing fantasy here, Jeff.
Okay, fair enough.
We're doing facts, just the facts.
It is funny because we all know that the big man in hockey is always going to get every benefit of the doubt, and even at this trade deadline.
Especially at the draft table.
But
right?
also at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. Michael McCarron, right? He went. Nick Bjugstad went a couple of weeks before Tyler Myers on the move at the trade deadline, and yet it's interesting. I mean, people always try to draw a through line from champion to champion and find those sort of common elements, and I don't know that one size fits all.
I think you're right.
But, we'll see if that is a developing trend. I mean, we won't get a third look at the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. So.
No, we'll see them tonight, just not in the Cup final in June. As for the Canucks, bringing this around to the Canucks, Jeff, you have a Swedish general manager for now You have a propensity for Swedish players, both historically and in recent draft picks, right? Lekkerimäki and Willander, 2 of the 4 they've made from Sweden, not EPD as well. And you have fans clamoring for a Canadian and McKenna if picking first overall. I ask you, sir, could an embattled management group, if Rutherford, Alvin et al. Make it to the draft table, stick to their board if they have Stenberg over McKenna, or will the commercial considerations here and the fan opinion for McKenna matter too much?
Well, I have to say, when Jim Rutherford told John Shannon on his podcast a couple of weeks ago that he'd like more Canadian players here, that's exactly where my head went.
Ditto.
Was not
Ditto.
About the current roster.
And it was kind of a nothing burger because he followed it up and saying, hey, look, nationality, we just want good players.
For sure.
But he basically made the all things being equal, we prefer more Canadians here.
But rather than, are they going to trade for more Canadian players or try to, find more in their own system and develop whatever? That's exactly where I went was draft day, and it felt to me like, and maybe I misread it, but that's how I interpreted it was.
And he has a way of signaling, Rutherford,
well, that's just it.
Things forward.
Exactly. So take that for what it's worth, but that is how I read the room that day.
Okay, so answer me the question. Their scouts come in, they tell Todd Harvey, we like Stenberg over McKenna. Do you think they can actually pull the trigger on that pick?
I do. I do, because the things that Stenberg's done in the Swedish Hockey League this year are incredible. And I know we'll get more into it with Cam Robinson.
Yep.
And it does sort of feel like, I don't know if McKenna's more visible. The clips are more apparent online. Like it feels like people have seen more of Gavin McKenna than they have of Ivar Stenberg. And so I don't know if that shapes your opinion as well. You have to remember the things you see online are highlights for a reason.
Right.
Because
anybody can look good on a highlight tape, right?
Yeah. And so, like, Stenberg's a hell of a player, obviously. And if they believe, and, they've done their work and tracked him for the last couple of seasons, if they believe that Ivar Stenberg is the best prospect and they're in a position to choose between the two, will there be some here that are disappointed? Yeah, there's been so much McKenna hype for so long. I get it. And I think I'm on Team McKenna for the Vancouver Canucks if they get that opportunity. Of course, the choice may be taken out of their hands by the lottery balls.
That's
so, but yes, to answer your question, I think
you think they could make that.
I do. Yeah.
Boy, they better be right, because that would be.
Well, they've got to be right on just about everything here moving forward, and you're never going to bat 1,000.
I'm just envisioning it, Jeff. They take Stenberg first overall. Calgary takes McKenna second overall. And come December, McKenna has a boatload of points and Stenberg's finding his way in the NHL. Oh, my goodness.
Yep.
Would not want to be in Canucks management shoes if that's the case.
Distinct possibility.
I will preface this by saying, especially given what Jeff just mentioned about highlight tapes, so I saw Stenberg play a number of times at the World Juniors, and I saw McKenna play a number of times at the World Juniors, as you may have. I've caught a couple of Penn State games over the course of the year. I caught one of the Champions League games that Stenberg played in. So I'm not dealing with more than like 6 to 8 viewings on either guy. But from what I've seen, Jeff, Stenberg plays a more North American style game than Gavin McKenna. Gavin McKenna plays a perimeter game. He's got that gene, Sedin's had it, where puck is on his stick and suddenly all the proceedings slow down and he's the maestro, which is amazing. You love that. But it's usually on the perimeter. He's not yet a great shooter, not yet a great finisher. And the scouting reports will tell you, never going to be a Selke guy, never even going to be a penalty killer, but has to still come a long ways in terms of play without the puck, the defensive part of the game. When I've watched Stenberg, boy, is he comfortable along the walls, in short areas, in tough areas. He doesn't just survive contact, he initiates it half the time. Playmaker himself. Again, not sure how much a finisher he is just yet. But I see some of the conversation on social media, comparing and contrasting these two. And it seems like Stenberg is just marked with, oh, he's a Swede, as though he's a smaller perimeter, more European style of hockey player. When I've watched him, he has been right in the mix. Very much a North American style of game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was sort of my takeaway, too, from the World Juniors. And that's where I saw, we had access to entire games. It's not just a clip here or a clip there or a shift. You could sit and watch the game and try to draw your own conclusions there. And again, you have to keep in mind, like, the things that he's doing in a professional league against guys that have been doing it for years and are getting paid to try to stop him in Sweden. And he's had this incredible season. Like, it does feel like in some circles he's being painted unfairly with this notion
I think
that
he is.
He's sort of the consolation prize.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are just not familiar with the details of his game and are stereotyping him based on his size and where he's come from. Anyways, 3 months to the draft here. There will be a lot said, written, and discussed about Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg. Jason Bukala, Sportsnet today. New rankings. Stenberg is still his number one guy. We thought there would be this cascading flow of every draft ranking, every guy's new list have McKenna on top of Stenberg. It hasn't materialized that way. Neighborhood Brewing has released Throwback Cream Ale. Throwback is a nod to the legendary BC Cream Ale days with that iconic, smooth, easy drinking feel that you remember. It's been amped up with a full-body malt profile, keeping things rich and rounded, then laid down with a subtle mix of English and American hops for a clean, balanced finish. Look for Neighborhood Brewing's Throwback Cream Ale at government and private liquor stores. Canucks versus Florida tonight at Rogers Arena. The two-time defending reigning Stanley Cup champions come to town. Still mathematically alive, but ain't going to happen. Kevin Lankinen starts for Nikita Tolopilo after the big Belarusian had that stinker Saturday against the Kraken and got a little bit of run there, Tolopilo did. Mm-hmm. Lankinen is still looking to tie Thatcher Demko in goaltending wins, Jeff, at a mere 8.
Yeah.
Demko has not played since January 10th. Lankinen has not won since January 27th.
Yeah, he's got one win in his last 14 decisions.
Yeah.
There's a very realistic possibility, Matt, that the Canucks will not have a double-digit goaltending win.
Yeah.
That's the kind of season it's been, but when you look at it on a screen or on paper and think that you're not going to have a goalie that gets to double digits.
That's crazy. Let me ask you, can one of them separate themselves in what's left of this season? Is there enough runway? Is there the potential for one of these guys to make the club and its fan base feel good about them opening next season as a starter or a co-starter based on Demko's availability?
I'm curious to see what Lankinen does tonight in his 200th National Hockey League game. He has been better. The game in Winnipeg, he allowed 2 goals in regulation, got beaten in overtime, but then came back, got the next start, the homestand. Ottawa gave up 1 goal. And even at that, it was a kind of funky bounce off the glove. The Canucks challenged, and the goal stood. But then they scored in an empty net and a 2-0 win. So he's given up 3 goals in regulation in his last 2 starts. Team hasn't done a whole lot offensively to help him out, but I am encouraged that there have been some signs at the very least that we haven't seen, because for most of January and the short sample in February, Lankinen was just way too leaky. There were just
he was lost.
You're not going to win games when your goalie's giving up 5 and 6, and that was
and
happening
Foot
on the
was
regular.
talking about it yesterday in terms of trust. He's not as big a body as Demko, so he's got a smaller margin of error. And does he trust that the cross crease pass is going to get knocked down, going to get prevented? That's been an issue for Canucks defending all season long. So yeah, I get it. It wasn't long ago we were sitting here saying, give Tolopilo a run, see if the big Belarusian can be an NHL co-star, like just backup co-starter, something you feel good about.
Oh, that 2-1 goal the other night, though, was so ugly.
And there's too many of those, Jeff. Like that's what's holding him back. Like there's a dreadful goal here and there where you just go, okay, that's not NHL goaltending.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think Tolopilo, as we said, there's been development in his game. I'm not going to hold one night against him, but I did want to see him because I firmly believed, like, give the guy a run. Let's see how he reacts and responds to 3 or 4 straight starts. But you have a night like the other night. I have,
You can't blame Coach for going back to Lankinen.
So
and
I'm
in
not
fact,
surprised.
Foot yesterday sounded like he kind of regretted the decision for Tolopilo on.
He shouldn't have.
Saturday.
I think it was the right
no,
call.
I don't think he should have either, but he sounded like the recriminations there were wrong call. Elias Pettersson with Jake DeBrusk and Drew O'Connor. That was at practice yesterday. Just before we get into line mates for Petey, we talked to John Shannon yesterday. Blake asked him a question about Elias's trade value over the next 16 games. Does he have a chance to improve it? And John said he didn't think it mattered. Do you think that these 16 games matter to Elias's trade value in the summer?
Not really. I mean, we're talking about 2 years on now of steady decline. And I don't think that a 16-game sprint to the finish and just even the idea of an uptick over these final 16, like there's so little there right now that I have trouble wrapping my head around the idea that suddenly he's going to spring to life offensively. I kind of feel like this 20-game goal drought has just been accepted in this market and almost swept under the rug, and I just don't know how that can ever be possible.
Jeff,
so,
I think he's been swept under the rug.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, you're right.
I think there are very few Elias Pettersson believers left. I think there are very few people pinning the tail on other people other than Elias Pettersson, which we saw a lot of over the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who believe it will never happen here in Vancouver and are just awaiting a trade, even if it's to get the contract off the books with very little return.
And that's all fair. I just don't think that the final 16 games he can do enough to rehabilitate his image or his performance levels. I think it's just going to kind of be a limp to the finish for him and for the hockey club.
I do think we can agree, though, that it's been difficult to understand line mates this year with this coaching staff.
For sure.
Elias. A lot of people wondering where the second suite is on that line. Okay, maybe not Hoglander if you don't think he's up to the first line duty. How about Linus Karlsson? And Adam Kirstenblad has the underlines here. Nearly 80 minutes together. DeBrusk, Pettersson, Karlsson. 50% of the goals for, and then the other metrics are terrific. The expected goals for nearly 2-1 against the opposition. The high danger scoring chances better for the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll see how O'Connor hangs on that line. He has had a good season. He's been one of the better Canucks this year. DeBrusk, Pettersson, and O'Connor tonight versus the Panthers.
A banged-up Panthers bunch as well. We should mention, no Sasha Barkov all season. West Van Sam Reinhart, not on this road trip now, leads their team in goals and points. Brad Marchand, not going to play.
No.
Old friend Brad Marchand. How many visits to Vancouver are left for him?
Exactly. Can't taunt the crowd tonight. Seth Jones has been missed.
Seth Jones is back tonight.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Sergei Bobrovsky playing his 800th game. You got Lankinen playing his 200th. The other end is Bobrovsky getting his 800th game.
Big question about him.
Sam Bennett is back.
Too. Yeah.
But Lucic, underrated player in this league, he's not going to play tonight. And how about this? Nolan Foote. Nolan Foote is making his Florida Panthers debut. So the son of Adam on the other side. There will be 2 Footes in this hockey game. Well, one behind the bench. But, yeah. So these are not the Stanley Cup champion Panthers. Not by a long shot.
Marco Rossi, 7 points in his last 7 games all this month. Expected to keep centering this line, this bro line. Lachlan Irvin is calling it. Besser and Ogren.
Why not the Orb line? Or the Rob line? How come Rob Williams didn't try and... No?
Well, Rob Williams was late to Twitter.
I guess so. So many options there.
Do you like bro line?
I like the line. I'm never one for liking names of lines, but...
you didn't like West Coast Express?
I mean, I grew on me, I suppose.
You didn't like Lotto line? Come on, Jeff. You liked Lotto line.
Lotto line was pretty creative,
Lotto
actually.
line was very good.
Yeah.
It was one of our listeners,
Marco
Rossi on the island.
Marco Rossi has shown me something here in the last couple of games. And I think the fact that he's finally healthy and settling in after a trade, I I just wanted to see some flashes of offensive instinct, and I have seen that. And they haven't all led to goals, but there have been some nice setups that haven't been finished by his teammates. Whatever the case, Liam Öhgren, straight lines, doing whatever he's done since he arrived here and continuing to grow and develop, and I like what I see from Öhgren. Nice to see Besser responding from the head injury. They kept him out for those games just before the Olympic break. And I think one of the reasons that Brock is having the success is that Marco Rossi has been putting the puck in the right spot for him.
I think so.
And so I think it's Rossi that is driving that line to the point that I see a lot of people saying, like, at what point are we going to finally get around to bumping Elias Pettersson off the top line of, every time the lines are tweeted out or written about?
It's a fair shout.
And I think we're getting pretty close to that. I mean, one guy is producing, the other guy's going 20 games without a goal.
Yeah. Only a matter of time if that keeps up. Big Curtis Douglas will sit tonight against his nemesis.
Yeah.
This is the former Tampa tough guy who got into all those punch-ups with the Panthers earlier this year. Now you're going to sit him?
Built-in hate, you would think, for the Florida Panthers.
Coach.
And then you're going to play him against his former team
Coach,
2 nights from
what
now.
are we doing here?
Yeah,
we're glad to see Hoglander back.
That one is curious.
Coach, today was the spot to play Big Curtis Douglas. If you're going to entertain the fans with fisticuffs, it was happening tonight, Coach.
It's not too late. Let him take the warm-up. Make the decision then. Game time decision.
He'll mean mug someone at the red line. And you know what? Let's make a late change here. Douglas, you're in. Update on the World Cup of Hockey. And we talked about this yesterday. The cities were named, Calgary, Edmonton, Prague. Teams weren't. And everybody suspects that's the National Hockey League waiting to see, does something change geopolitically in the next 2 years whereby you could invite Russia, or do you just want to go against the grain in terms of what most governing sports bodies have decided to exclude Russia and Belarus for that matter? Did mention yesterday there were a few Russian-Belarusian athletes allowed at the Milano Cortina Games. They did not participate under their national flags, but they were competing in the events. Well, report from Czechia, the reporter here is Robert Rampa, saying Finland, Sweden, and Czechia have informed the NHL they won't participate in 2028 in the World Cup if Russia is involved.
Invite Russia at your own peril, I suppose. And Ovi's the poster boy, and understandable on that tweet. Does he try to ride this thing out with the hopes of playing?
It's 2 more years. I mean, he may still be playing professionally in Russia, in which case he would be eligible to be on the team, but I have trouble seeing him there as an NHLer, although I am greatly amused at all the talk that goes on and frankly would love to see it. Ovechkin this summer going, you know what? I'll sign a bargain basement deal with Connor McDavid and the Oilers or Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. I would love to see that, Jeff.
League minimum at
exactly.
this stage.
Just give me whatever you can afford cap-wise, and let me go play with one of the generational center icemen.
Go to San Jose.
There's that one too.
Bypass Edmonton.
Speaking of Edmonton, Leon Draisaitl expected to miss the remainder of the regular season. Lower body injury suffered in the first period against Nashville a couple of days ago. He's 35 goals. He's 97 points, so he may finish short of 100, Jeff, in 65 games this season. And here's the thing. It's not like the Oilers are free and clear in the playoffs either.
Not at all. Not at all.
And you were telling me some big ones tonight in the Western race.
They're home to San Jose. If the Sharks win in regulation, they move within 3 of the Oilers with 3 games in hand. Edmonton,
those San Jose games in hand are something to watch here because you look at San Jose versus the rest of the contenders there and you think, oh, okay, you want to dismiss them because you're a young team. And then you see the games played and you go, no. San Jose's runway is pretty good here.
Right. And the Oilers are, right now, heading into action tonight, sit 3rd in the Pacific Division. Now they're 2 points back of Anaheim and just a single point behind Vegas. So it's crammed in the 3 divisional spots. But Seattle, 4 points back of Edmonton. Los Angeles, 4 points back of Edmonton. And San Jose is 5 back. And the Sharks and Oilers still play each other twice. So no Leon Draisaitl changes the calculus greatly for the Edmonton Oilers. And the Oilers are saying the rest of the regular season, Matt, it's St. Paddy's Day. That is March 17th every year. we are 1 month away from the start of the playoffs. If this is a knee injury, and this is total speculation, but just hear me out. If this is a 6-week injury, there's a potential that if the Oilers make the playoffs, Leon may not be ready to go then. So, yeah, this is, outside of the name change of McDavid, this is pretty close to worst case scenario for the Edmonton Oilers. Losing Leon Draisaitl.
I always say I don't get caught up in the Oilers' regular season mini dramas because they're going to the playoffs and they're winning rounds. This might be more than a regular season mini drama for the Oilers.
They're fighting for their playoff life.
Yeah.
Which would be catastrophic given McDavid and Draisaitl at this stage of their career and coming off back-to-back trips to the Stanley Cup final.
They got that hot new goalie, though.
Yeah.
I almost want to see it just to see the reaction and questions from Edmonton media. I still think they'll make it, though.
I do, too, but it's interesting.
It's
getting interesting now.
How about this? Austin, this brought a smile to my face. Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, has been named the provincial winner of the 2026 Kraft Hockeyville contest. Tumbler Ridge Community Center Arena was named BC's representative, so the arena will already receive $50,000 to be used towards upgrades, as well as $10,000 worth of brand new hockey equipment. That's contributed by the NHLPA's Goals and Dreams Fund, alongside the National Hockey League NHLPA Industry Growth Fund. Now in the running for the national designation is Kraft Hockeyville 2026, and that would be a $250,000 grand prize.
Let's go. Let's make it happen.
I was just going to say, let's make this happen. Go to hockeyville.kraftheinz.com for more information. What you can do there is you can add a written or video story submission that gains the arena 10 points. You can add your add a photo of the arena that gets you 3 points. So there are ways you can participate here to make Tumbler Ridge Kraft Hockeyville for 2026. Celebrating 20 years here of Kraft.
One thing I do wonder is that if you win it all, isn't there an NHL preseason game attached to that? I don't know that the National Hockey League would take two teams to Tumbler Ridge and that arena.
I will have to look into that more if that is still the
because we've seen the Canucks play in the Hockeyville game before over in Victoria.
Right?
Didn't they do one up in, I want to say Smithers or Kitimat or somewhere? So we'll see. But kudos to if there were people behind the scenes that made it so that Tumbler Ridge was the provincial.
Yep.
They need all the good news they can.
Absolutely. 8 people lost their lives there last month. So we're with Tumbler Ridge and encourage you to support Tumbler Ridge for Kraft Hockeyville. Let's get to our menu today. It is brought to you by our friends at Greta, which is a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You're a mere steps from the arena or the stadium. Also a great spot for your next gathering, whether that's family, work, your sports team. They have a private riser in the back of the bar. It's surrounded by screens. It's surrounded by arcade games. You'll have a blast. The food is delicious. Try the poutine. It serves 2. And for more information to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We will talk to Cam Robinson here. We'll talk to him about a couple of the Canucks issues, Hoglander, Pettersson, but a lot on prospects with Cam. And we're going to be doing a lot on prospects here going forward as we point towards the 2026 entry draft. McKenna, Stenberg. We're even going to talk some 2027 entry draft here with Landon DuPont and that big Russian whom we just discovered. That looks like it's got some players at the top of the draft as well. So plenty of prospect talk with Cam on the Vancouver Canucks. Later in the program, we'll talk some Whitecaps. A mayoral candidate has come out and said he is not for a stadium on the Hastings Park site. So we'll talk about that. Some baseball news and notes. We're getting a little closer to Vancouver Canadians season at the Nats, celebrating 75 years here of Nat Bailey Stadium with the Blue Jays making some roster moves. A few more details on NBA expansion to Seattle, not to mention a big NFL trade today. So plenty of happenings on the program today. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. And Mr. Paterson, you have the tea.
Well, the Canucks at home to those Florida Panthers, who are missing most of their top goal scorers, but they still have guys, and they're going to need some of those guys to step in and step up. Carter Verhaeghe sitting on 19 goals, so his next would be his 20th. Some pretty simple hockey math there. Anytime goal scorer for the Florida Panthers, if Carter Verhaeghe gets one tonight, some value at plus 210.
Well, I'm going to go on one of the guys that we just talked about and who is playing his best hockey of the season, and his best hockey is a Vancouver Canuck, and that is Marco Rossi with 7 points in 7 games, centering that bro line with Besser and Ogren. He's plus 115 to get a point tonight, so I like the value there. Dare to dream 2 points at plus 600 for Marco Rossi? Could happen. Get some power play time too, right?
Yeah.
Give me Rossi.
Got the goal with like 10 seconds left the other night. Play to the final buzzer.
Give me Rossi. 2 points plus 600. We'll take a big swing here on little Marco in the center of that good Canucks line. Every sports fan will tell you that not all games are created equal. Sometimes the excitement just isn't there. Sometimes you get a dud. It happens. But at Bet365, boring games are a thing of the past. Now, there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. And while they can't make every game exciting, they can help fans get excited about every game. Bet365. Download the app today. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly.
He strikes me as a man of occasion, and I think here on St. Patrick's Day, we're going to go with Mark O'Rossi. Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mark O'Rossi for 2 points. Cam Robinson next. So here's some price from the historic Wall Center, and I don't know if you've driven past a gas station recently. I had to stop at one yesterday, J-Pad. It's over $2 a liter. It took me $100, and the tank still wasn't full. You know what? Time for the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid from your Pacific Toyota dealers, because this is a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles, offers the best of both worlds. But here's the thing, with gas at the price it's at right now, you take this home, you plug it in overnight, you don't need a special charger, just a regular plug-in, and you drive up to 72 kilometers on battery alone. That's enough to get you downtown, to the rink, the grocery store, all your daily errands. Seamless transition from electric to gas mode for a combined range of 962 kilometers. No sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style. We've been telling you this is a beautiful vehicle, sleek, low, wide exterior, sophisticated interior, tons of cargo space, plus to recharge at home, or you can charge at one over 2,000 public charging stations in British Columbia. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Here's Cam Robinson. He's the director of everything at Elite Prospects, and he joins us from his home on the island. How are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. At $2 a liter, though, I might have to start walking her. I don't think I can be driving anymore. Hey, that's crazy.
And it just went through the roof there over a matter of a few days. It's almost like there are global events happening, Cam.
Not
Something about it straight, yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy, really excited to talk prospects with you going forward here, both Canucks prospects and draft prospects, but we're going to start on the big club here.
Okay.
Some interesting words from Adam Foote yesterday after practice about Nils Hoglander. His game was coming along there a little bit, but they scratched him Saturday versus the Kraken. He will play tonight, and we're asking on our poll question, does Nils Hoglander have a future with the Canucks?
Because they're so bad, and they should be so bad next year too if they're doing this right. He should have a short-term future with the club anyways. Just excuse me. 25 years old, making $3 million for I believe a couple more seasons after this. Yeah. And with his production the last 2 years, right? He has like 9 goals over the last 2 seasons. We're 2 years removed from that 24-goal season. It's going to be hard to convince a team that he's a reclamation project, as he'll be turning 26 next year and the production's so low. So he might just be on the team by default, and he'll have a short-term future with him that way, or he finds himself on waivers and maybe a team picks him up like that. But it's really disappointing the way it's turned out for him, because he is a skillful, kind of hard-nosed player that is a unique player type in that regard. And it looked like he was going to come along, like, when he scored those 24 goals, he was shooting 20%, and that was going to always be too high for where he was going to sustain at. But you hope that he would take steps forward, maybe ramp up the shot rate, and it just hasn't happened. At the same time, he's never really been given a shot more than 11, 12 minutes a night to really push up there. But it's kind of the chicken versus the egg. Did he deserve more ice time to get it, or did you just feed him the more ice time to hope that he finds his game again?
If the Canucks make a coaching change in the offseason and Hoglander is still around, by my math, that would be 5 NHL head coaches. And he doesn't turn 26 until December. So at the age of 25, this guy would have 5 NHL head coaches. Plus, he spent a good stint in the AHL with a 6th voice in his head. Like, you can understand to some degree why it has been difficult for him.
Absolutely. I mean, how about a little consistency? Hey, and when you're that type of player, dare I say a role type of player, is that you are going to be asked to do different things by different voices. When you're a top of the lineup player, you pretty much know what your job is, right? When you are even like a shutdown defenseman, things don't change too much. When you're that guy who's kind of a tweener, offensive, defensive checker, can chip in a lot of ways, is that you're going to be asked to do different things from different people. And so you're absolutely right. Having no cohesive structure on the bench behind him there for his entire career is certainly going to be impacting how he's turned out.
Cam, it's an offensive zone penalty. Foot talked about decisions at the blue line yesterday. We know in the past it's been a hockey IQ matter with Nils Hoglander. Mm-hmm. Can one work on hockey IQ? Can hockey IQ change? Can one get better at that in their mid-20s?
I'm going to say generally no. I think that it is a rep thing. Like, absolutely, you're going to improve as you are playing at higher levels. The more reps you get at the top level, the quicker you're going to make those decisions. The more data you have in your brain that you're going to be like, I've been here before. I know what to do. I've seen this. I've made that mistake. I correct. But at the end of the day, it's just like an innate ability. I truly believe that some players have it and some players don't. And even when they're young, is that some players can just see the ice better. They can read the plays quicker. And you can improve it incrementally as you go. But once you get to this point, when you're 25, 26 years old, I'm going to say that there's probably a ceiling on how much you can improve that now. And unless all of a sudden he starts getting 18 minutes a night and he gets more reps, and it can improve just a little bit. But no, I don't think that a player can really make wholesale changes on their IQ at this stage.
All right, moving on. Elias Pettersson, 16 games remaining, Cam. Do you think they matter to his trade value? We've been having the discussion here about if Elias can close the season strong, maybe that opens some eyes in the June market, which is usually flusher with more cap space. And John Shannon came in here yesterday and just told us, guys, I don't think it matters. I think the book is out. If it would have happened, it would have happened by now. Does a strong finish matter to Elias's trade value?
I mean, if he puts up 25 points in 16 games, I think it does. I think that's the type of thing that you're going to need to see. You're going to need to see him like totally light it up and then be like, that's a small sample, but it's just big enough that you could convince a team to be like, we're back on the upswing. If that's what you want to do, if you could convince, because I do think, I've maintained this and I've checked around that it's teams still believe, maybe not that 100+ point player is still in there somewhere, but a point a game player is still in there, and someone who is very strong defensively and plays the middle of the ice and is relatively young still, that player, that value is still in there somewhere. The trade offers wouldn't be what they were 2 years ago. Obviously, they won't be what they were last year either. But teams, I think, are still willing to bet on this player. So if he could have a really nice red hot finish, I do think that would help them mine some value at the draft if they're looking to trade him, which I think that they're very open to doing. But if he goes out and he puts up 12 points, doesn't change it. If he even puts up maybe like 15 or 16, I'm not sure it really nudges it. I think he really has to go out and blow the doors off this thing.
How about he scores a goal? How about that? The drought
is
at 20 now, which like I'm having
We really
trouble.
should have started with crawling before walking. Good point, Shane.
I get that this season has just been a complete dumpster fire, but 20 games without a goal for this guy. Like I've watched every single one of them. I've been at most of them, and I still have trouble processing the idea that this player can go 20 games without putting a single puck in the net.
Dare I say, do I say this out loud? I'm not even sure if this is legal. The yips? Are we dealing with the yips here? Like what it's that alone, because when he came in, and I've talked about this on this show before, is that when he was drafted, he didn't have a very good shot, right? That was kind of the knock on him. He was undersized, underweight, little bit slow, and the shot was a muffin. And in the span of 12 months, he turned that thing into a top tier NHL release that he was then just cooking SHL teams with, and brought that over. And where did that go? That doesn't just disappear. Yes, he's had some injury concerns, but that's in there. That ability to shoot the puck should still be there. And he's just not shooting it. He doesn't shoot the puck enough. Like if I was Adam Foote, I'd be like, don't come off the ice until you get a shot on goal. You remember Alexei Kovalev when he was taking too long of shifts, and they were like, you don't get to change now. You just got to stay on the ice. You get a 7-minute shift. That'll teach you. Just Petey, nope, get back out there till you get a puck on net. Let's see what happens. Just force it out of him, because I, like you, it's flabbergasting, because he should be able to score regularly, and to go 2 months or whatever it's been here without being able to put a puck in the back of the net. Surely that's in his head, and he's spinning with that in his mind constantly, and that's only going to make things worse, right? Tighten up on the stick, and you got to just let it flow. He needs one to go off his butt or off the back of his head or something crazy, and get the ball rolling. Hopefully,
Blake said that yesterday too. Jeff, I want to see a beautiful goal, a classic rookie season Elias Pettersson beautiful goal. Is that still a possibility these
do your
days?
deeds thing? I don't know. I
do your deeds.
I'm with Cam. Like
a great one-timer on the Bauer play, short side, and a narrow window. Something.
I mean, we've
like
analyzed
that.
this guy for 2 years in decline, and yet nobody's come to any sort of conclusion. But I am with Cam. Like these 16 games don't matter. Like, change it up a little bit.
Yes.
Go into a night and say, I'm going to get 5 shots. I don't know what they look like. I don't know where they're going to come within the game, but I'm going to put 5 shots on net and take my chances. And yet it's 24 shots over this 20-game span. It's not anywhere close
And this
to good
is after
enough.
a couple of occasions this year talking about, I need to shoot the puck more. I want to have 2 or 3 shots per game. And
well, here's the thing, right? He knows what he needs to do. Right? He's a smart guy. He's played this game at a high level. He knows exactly what he needs to do. It's the issue of doing it. And maybe you're right, Jeff, is that, like, heck, when I go to the rink with my 10-year-old, we do little micro goals. What's it going to be today? Here's the 3 things you're going to try to accomplish at the game today. Maybe that's what you got to do. You got to just reduce it entirely for this player. It's that literal micro goals, baby steps. Let's get back to the basics here. Let's get out of our own heads. And let's call them wins, right? Doesn't matter what the scoreboard says. Doesn't matter if you didn't even register a point. You accomplish your 3 micro goals. That's a win. Maybe you get a little pack of gummies or a Blizzard treat afterwards or something like that. Hey, and
now
keep that dopamine
we're getting
rolling.
somewhere. Now you got my attention.
Yeah.
How about a Blizzard with the gummies in it?
Oh, now we're mixing and mashing.
when I was a kid, if I got a goal or assist, I got a slushie after the game.
Nice.
And if I happen to get 3 points, I got a hat for hat trick in the skate sharpening shop. And
That's big time.
That was big time. I was like, whoa. Get 2 points. I was hunting that third.
You're
didn't happen very often. Yeah, exactly.
I got that secondary.
Exactly.
Out at center ice with the stick in the air late in the game.
Hey, cherry picking works at that level.
Sure does.
Okay, let's move on to prospects here, Cam. We'll start with McKenna.
Okay.
And I read that story on The Athletic. And look, the first thing I will say and premise, we are into nitpicking season, right? Like, for the most part, we understand that these are great hockey players, fantastic prospects, And so now we're looking for the little reasons why not to take them first overall or why not to rank them first overall, and things that they're going to need to improve if, in fact, they drop in to a National Hockey League lineup for next season. There you go. One scout telling, I believe it was Scott Wheeler, I guess with the previous alleged charges, the McGregor-Selly, the zero detail in his game, I do have some whiff of immaturity or entitlement. Hey, he's 18. There's a lot of 18-year-old hockey stars who have a little immaturity and a little bit of entitlement. Talk to me about the detail in the game, Cam, and how NHL ready you think Gavin McKenna would be to drop into the Canucks lineup or anybody else's lineup come October.
Yeah, just on the immaturity of the entitlement thing, I would say that that's the rule, not the exception for kids of his stature and of skill that have been, it's just be around hockey rinks, be around these players that are at the top levels when they're teenagers, is that they've spent their entire lives being told how great they are. And they are put up on pedestals, and it's really difficult. So when you hear about a kid who is truly down to earth and level headed and, has that maturity at a young age, it's rare. Often, very often, they will find it though, is that they figure out, and sometimes you find out pretty quickly when you move to the pros, you're like, whew, this is harder than I thought. And you get that little wake up call. But the details in his game, it's nothing new, right? It's nothing new. If you were watching him in Medicine Hat, he was just able to do things at a higher level in the Western Hockey League because he was playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Now, in college hockey, he's the same type of player. It's just, especially early on in the season, he was up against guys that were up to, 22, 23, 24 years old, and they were able to limit his effectiveness offensively. He's found his rhythm there. He showed up. He's, I had an agent text me and asked if I was watching that game on the weekend, and I was, and he was like, "How's he playing?" I was like, "He's been fine. He's had his moments. He's set some things up. He's able to finish, but then he'll go dark and he'll get a little quiet and he'll make a bad play. But that's just the player that he is. And so some guys will look at that and they'll be like, oh, he's not very good tonight. But it's like, that's just who he is. He's going to shine in big moments, and he'll probably end up having a couple points at the end of the day, but he's not going to be someone out there that you will trust late in a game with a lead. He's not someone out there that you want hemmed in their defensive zone for long periods of time. Like, that's just not the guy. You want him out there in offensive, generating positions. You want him starting his faceoffs in the offensive zone. You want him on every power play. You want him playing with your best players who know how to work with a guy like him, who it's like, hey, if I get open, he's going to find me. And so those are the type of things you're looking for. Is he going to be ready in the fall? That's a big question. I think he's going to be there in the fall. If I was him, like I would honestly consider going back for another season and truly dominating and getting my physical maturation up. I would live in the weight room and I would try to stack on another 10 pounds throughout that season, and then come in and be like, now I'm really ready to go. And I'm not going to have that really tough transition as a 19-year-old, which I think it will be. I think it'll be difficult for him next year, wherever he's going to play, even though he'll be probably gift wrapped some really prime offensive minutes. It's still going to be a tough transition for him. So if it was me, maybe I'd consider one more year, but I do think he will be coming out and he'll be slotting into an NHL lineup in the fall.
Cam, set the table for our listeners and our viewers here. What's left ahead here for both McKenna and Stenberg in terms of viewings and their seasons and what it can do between now and the draft? McKenna and Penn State are going to be part of the, what is it? It's not the Frozen Four yet. The 16.
Yeah.
So, and is Stenberg still playing?
Yeah. So for Lunda, the SHL playoffs start this morning, I believe. And so they do like a play-in round where it's like 7 plays 10, 8 plays 9, and then we get into the main meal. So for Lunda, they were the second best team in the league. So they have a few days off here. He hasn't played, I don't think, since the 14th. So he wrapped up his season. Obviously, we know it was a little bit slow. 1 point in his last 8 games. Ended, just 1 point shy of Henrik in 6 fewer games. So the second best point per game season behind Daniel ever in that league. Still a tremendous season. What can he do now? I mean, put up a couple points in the playoffs. He won't be going to the U18s. Obviously, he's too old for that. Neither will McKenna. So we're not going to see them internationally unless they go to the World Championships, which is a possibility. But we're just looking for a strong finish. I think the meat of all the scouting has been done now. You're looking, like you said earlier, we're nitpicking. Now we're looking at little things, right? How are they handling, like for Stenberg? How's he going to handle playoffs? right? That's going to be a big opportunity. It's going to be high pressure, tight checking. Is he going to be able to fight through? Is he going to be able to put the puck in the net? But at the end of the day, I think everybody knows who these players are at this point and what they're likely to become. And now it's just kind of deciding which you want.
Yeah, so McKenna finds out where Penn State is playing. I believe Sunday is the selection show for the NCAA tournament. They have qualified. You mentioned World Championships, Cam. Like, do you think Stenberg has a chance to play on the Swedish team? Because, of course, it's tougher with McKenna because which NHL teams are eliminated, how many of those guys are going. Those are huge unanswers. Yeah. But in Sweden, you know all the European pros will be done. What do you think? Like, are they quality enough, caliber enough to be playing on men's World Championship teams?
I mean, Ivar's been one of the best players on one of the best teams in the SHL. So he can hang. He could have a spot on that team, I do believe, and he would be able to contribute and look like he belonged. Whether or not he has a spot or will be invited, I have no idea. But it's something that, excuse me, that now that I'm saying it out loud, is that I'll poke around. I'll see if there is a chance that he could get that. Because I think that'd be really interesting. We don't get to see it too often. But it's always exciting when we do see a draft eligible go to the Worlds and get an opportunity to play some minutes too. That you remember when Quinn did it for the Americans there in his draft year? That was super exciting. And he showed really, really well. And I thought that would have jumped him way up draft boards, but it didn't. And that worked out pretty well for Vancouver and now I guess for Minnesota. But yeah, I'll poke around and see if I can have something for you guys for next week.
All right. I do wonder just on the World Championships, like we saw that the American program put some stock into guys going and representing the Stars and Stripes when it came to the Olympics. Now that we're into this cycle of best on best, I wonder if we see more guys answer the call of their country
Good point,
at the
Jeff.
Worlds.
Oh, I think you absolutely will. Those guys, and we saw it last year at the Worlds, especially for the Americans, right? Is that a lot of guys said, yes, please, because they wanted the opportunity to prove like, hey, I'm willing to go and do this. And, look at that. They won their first World Championship too. Is that if I can show out here, that'll go a long way in getting me here. And so you're right. In that 2-year cycle now that we're going to get best on best, I think we're going to see more guys, especially those bubble guys. Like obviously some of the top names don't have to do it, but they might anyways, just to get a little bit of cohesiveness and get some chemistry rolling and keep those good vibes. Yeah.
Moving on to Landon Dupont, because I saw your tweet about Landon and goodness gracious, have yourself a 6 weeks. Landon Dupont, 28 assists, 36 points in 20 games as a plus 29 player, a 16-year-old defenseman in the Western Hockey League. Like, are we getting into territory with him, Cam, that you want to say he exceeds the level of a prospect of a Macklin or a Connor Bedard? Are we getting into a level with Dupont that you may have teams actively tanking for Landon Dupont next year?
Probably not. I don't know if we're at that point yet. I'll just say, I think he's tremendous, and after just a historic 15-year-old season, he started a little quiet, 7 points in his first 15 games. And then now he's got 64 in the last 45. And like you said, 36 in the last 20. So his game has only improved. But I will say, when he wasn't putting up tons of points, he was still playing well. Like his defensive game was still good. He dominates the sheet. And he's often the youngest player on it too. Excellent mobility, excellent play creation. He's competitive. He's dangerous in all three zones. And he's 16. Now, the one thing that I have talked to scouts about this too, he's 6 foot and he's, 195, pushing 200 pounds already at 6 foot. Which means he's likely getting close to maxed out on his size. Like obviously we'll probably see that body fat percentage come down and the muscle mass go up as he ages into his 20s. But that does give teams just a whisper of pause, is that like how much more development is going to come? And there will be some, but is it going to be massive when you look at someone who's maybe like 6'3" and like 175 pounds? You're like, this guy's going to be playing 40 pounds heavier. What's that going to do to his game? So if he was 6'3", I think we would be having those conversations where it'd be like, generational defenseman, you want to tank for this. But the top of 27 is really fun. And it's funny how this happens every year, is that you start looking ahead a little bit and you're like, woo, that is going to be an exciting class next year. And then all of a sudden, March comes around the next year and you're like, yeah, it's a pretty good class. So hopefully it does.
No. We can't have that here in Vancouver. This needs to be the most exciting class of all the classes, Cam, because even in the 7 days since we've talked to you, Blake and I have discovered this monster in Russia, Nazar Privalov, all 6'4", 214 pounds of him, listed at Elite Prospects at age 16 years old, who went out and had him the best 16-year-old season in Russia's MHL since Nikita Kucherov. What can you tell us about this Russian monster Privalov and how he looks at the top of the 2027 draft?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I sort on this cool website, Elite Prospects, they've got Matvei Mishkov as the best U17 season in MHL history for goal scoring with 35, and then it was Kuch with 29. So this kid dropped 30. So I mean, even if it is Mishkov, Privalov, Kucherov, I mean, pretty good company to keep. Okay, but you're right, 6'4", you big boy. He's a big boy. He's an elite goal scorer. You know, I'm not going to pretend that I've watched him much. I haven't been scouting the MHL really because there's not a ton of players this year in this class, and I haven't gone down for the 16-year-olds. But I did. I sent a couple of texts. I talked to one guy, and he says it's like, yes, the goal scoring is what gets everybody's attention and the size, but actually a really strong playmaker as well. Has really good vision, has really good hands in tight space, can do some stuff. So like you said, you know, we got Alexei Joseph, a monster down the middle next year, who's really talented. I think he's the true challenger to DuPont at number one. You got DuPont, you got this Privalov kid. There's going to be some really interesting names next year for when Vancouver ends up at the bottom and ends up picking at 3 again. There's going to be some guys. There's going to be some guys out there.
3 is the floor. If we get Privalov at 3 is the floor, just like 3 is the floor this year.
We're asked you earlier
Mike Jeff.
Extended viewings here this season for the guys at the top of this draft class. Landon DuPont plays on an Everett team that could and quite will play for a while with Memorial Cup in Kelowna. Like people, if they've been locked onto the NHL and now they get to that point where, okay, I want to take a look at what else is out there, we may get a chance to see Landon DuPont play well into the month of May here this year with that Everett Silvertips team.
Oh yeah, they're a wagon. Now I have like this, like I'm torn because I'm sure I'll be in Kelowna for the Memorial Cup. I actually haven't booked that yet, but I'll definitely be in Slovakia for the U18s. And so I'm kind of hoping some of these really great, exciting prospects get bounced early so we can get them over there so I can enjoy watching them there. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to have interesting stuff to watch in Kelowna at the Mem Cup as well, too. So at least we know we'll have Tej there. The Aginlas will be at the Mem Cup for sure, right, as they're the host.
Right.
You know, if the Mem Cup was in Brandon or Medicine Hat or Prince Albert, yeah. It's in British Columbia. It's in Kelowna. Let's see some stars here.
Let's pump it up.
Absolutely. You make us smarter every week, particularly on these prospects, and look forward to talking more about it week to week with Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. Thank you, buddy. Until next week.
Thanks, boys. Talk soon.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center in the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Big game downtown. Make Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center your home base for game night and beyond. Walk to the action. Sleep like a champ. Plan your stay at wallcenter.com. Well, for the second consecutive week, Vancouver Whitecaps FC have placed 3 players onto the MLS Team of the Match Day. Brian White with his 2 goals, Sebastian Berhalter with his 3 goal contributions, Matthias Laborda with a goal. They all make the grade after a whitewashing of Minnesota on Sunday.
That was wild. I was helping my dad. He needed some furniture assembled. So I was over at his place. He was watching golf, but I knew the soccer game was on. I said, flip it over to the soccer game. And, you know, at that point, it's 4-0 and 5-6-0. Come on. What are we doing here?
Just think, last week we were sweating a 3-0 loss going, oh, okay. Is something about to change with the Whitecaps? No. Speaking of 3-0 loss, the Caps are into Spokane tomorrow for the second leg of their Round 2 CONCACAF Champions Cup tie with Seattle. We'll see how Jesper Sorensen chooses to deploy his stars. They need 3 goals to get to level here. And, of course, they got a big Western Conference clash coming up Saturday at BC Place versus the San Jose Earthquakes. The Earthquakes are 3-1, 3 points behind the undefeated Caps, 4-0. In MLS play. And I know they want us to buy into the CONCACAF Champions Cup and all that kind of stuff, but nothing says big game like midweek in Spokane. Well, and I understand the reasons. I do. But Lumen's getting World Cup equipped. you're right. The early rounds of CONCACAF Champions Cup are a little more difficult. Now, as they got to the semis and the final last year, needless to say, there was some gravitas, particularly the Lionel Messi Miami tie. But I hear what you're saying. Kenji Cabrera has been called up to Peru's national team for their March international window. They've got Senegal and another opponent at the end of the month in Paris. They'll play those games. Boy, that's a nice, you're going to get called up for international duty. Paris in the spring. Not bad living, Kenji Cabrera. And speaking of Sorensen, Caps put this out. It's 60 games now for Jesper Sorensen as Caps head coach across all competitions. They've scored 120 goals. That's 2 goals a match, Jeff. 22 clean sheets, so better than 1 out of every 3 games. They shut the opposition out. They're 31 wins, 18 draws, 11 losses in those matches. Of course, unbeaten here in MLS play this year. And when scoring first in MLS play, they are still undefeated. 21 wins and 4 draws when scoring first. They've also scored 3 goals or more in 19 of his 60 games, so almost 1 out of every 3. For a sport where there isn't a lot of scoring and where you have to attract a North American audience accustomed to seeing a lot of points, offensive success, I mean, this is just marvelous work from the Caps head coach.
Yeah, and I think credit to Axel and the process to find Jesper Sorensen, who, and look, I'm at an arm's length from the Whitecaps I watch, I enjoy, and I'm not going to tell you that I knew who the top candidates in the short list were, but it felt like this was a coaching candidate that kind of came out of nowhere and has absolutely been the right man for the job.
He had some experience in the Danish league and with youth teams there, but no, I mean, it's not like everyone's going, oh yeah, that guy, good find. Like, he was a virtual unknown.
And we all liked
in North America.
Vanny, right? Like, the idea of replacing Vanny was going to be difficult because he was such a great character. But Jesper has come with a system that he's been able to employ. Just listening to Thomas Mueller last year talk about ultimately what allowed him to trigger the move here, and it was this long conversation, and they just talked about football, and they shared vision and all that. And again, it seems that, as much as Mueller's been incredible, the numbers, the Midas touch there for Jesper.
Absolutely, because, of course, so much of that is before Mueller even got here.
Yes.
I mean, Mueller has kind of been a cherry on top of the cake, but they had built a solid foundation and were playing such attractive and winning soccer even before Mueller got here. Of course, there is their future. And an update on the stadium file here. Mayoral candidate Kareem Alam, running under the Vancouver Liberals banner, has tweeted he doesn't believe Hastings Park is a viable site for the new Whitecaps stadium. He was addressing a Twitter poster about, hey, haven't heard the 2 cents from the mayoral candidate on this. And he tweeted, I haven't spoken up on the Whitecaps deal because I never thought the PNE was a viable site. I felt it was moot. Despite what the mayor says, no mass transit is being planned. It's also a complicated site for a building that size from a geotechnical and engineering perspective. It's a rich archaeological area, and getting power to the site isn't simple either. The Whitecaps need something fast and accessible. This site is neither. He would go on to tweet, the site doesn't work. It was all PR from the mayor's office. Now, I'm guessing you don't have a lot of expertise in the geotechnical and engineering perspectives as well as the archaeological sensitivity.
Guilty on both charges, yes.
Nor do I, but Mr. Alam has, needless to say now, put himself out there as against the Whitecaps Stadium on that site. Reminder, the Caps signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the city in December to explore development of the Hastings site. They would be responsible for constructing the stadium. They would get land on a below-market rate on a long-term lease. Axel Schuster has said it can't only be a stadium. It requires development of Hastings Park as an entertainment district. The civic election is in October, and I imagine Mayor Sim and other candidates for council will be asked about this as we get closer to ballot day. Schedule change for MLS this year. MLS Cup will be played on Friday, December 18th. 1 week before Christmas.
Get your Christmas shopping done and then sit back and watch.
A full 2 weeks after last year's final in Miami, which was on a Saturday. It's the first time in MLS's 31 season history that the championship won't be a Saturday or a Sunday. And it is delayed this year because, of course, the World Cup delay. There is one big benefit to all this, though, Jeff. Means no more international breaks in the MLS postseason. You'll recall those, right? Meddling and interrupting the MLS playoffs.
What the big announcement doesn't tell you is that MLS Cup's going to be played on Friday, December 18th. Training camps for next season will start on December 17th, Matt. It never ends.
Mike, leave that graphic up for a second. I just want to point a few things out. So the dark shaded box, November 18th, that's wild card day. Then the next shaded gray box, for those of you on visual platforms, those are all the round one best of three series. Remember, they go best of three in round one. And then you get down to the brass tacks of conference semis on the weekend of December 5th, 6th, conference finals on the Friday, Saturday, December 11th, 12th, and then MLS Cup, which will be held at the stadium of the team that finishes with the most regular season points, Jeff. Now,
have we checked on the availability of BC Place?
Yeah, fat chance it's Toronto or Montreal, but this could be a snowy final if it's held in a northern city in an outdoor stadium a week before Christmas. And, of course, next year they're going to a change of schedule. More on that as we get there. There's also this soccer note. National coach Carlo Ancelotti of Brazil is set to extend his contract for another World Cup cycle till 2030. He's a 66-year-old Italian. He took over Brazil last May. He said he would like to be able to coach through a full World Cup, 4-year World Cup cycle. It sounds like he's going to get his wish. Some of us are holding out hope that Don Carlo, as he's known in soccer circles, who has won just about everything in just about every league, he had the good sense to marry a Vancouver girl. He spends his off seasons here, and some of us are
posting pictures.
Exactly. Some of us are still hopeful that one day he takes on the Canada job as his last project in world football. Does a good turn for his adopted country here. Don Carlo, we need you one of these days. A big trade in the NFL today where wide receiver Jaden Waddle goes from Miami to Denver with a whole bunch of draft picks involved. The Dolphins received the Broncos' first-round pick, 30th overall, along with a third and a fourth-round pick. Denver gets Miami's fourth, so they move up 19 places in the fourth round, and they get Waddle for a first and a third. That's the upshot there. He's a big-time playmaker. They needed some weapons there for quarterback. Bo Nix didn't score a lot in the playoff game. Of course, played it in a snow globe. And yesterday, Kansas City acquired New York Jets quarterback Justin Fields, who may have to play some depending on Patrick Mahomes and how he recovers from that knee surgery. They had lost their backup quarterback, Kansas City, in Gardner Minshew. Itty-bitty Seahawks note here, too. They lose backup wide receiver and ace special teamer Derek Young. He signs with Las Vegas. You may remember Young recovered that muffed punt in the NFC Championship game. He had served as the Seahawks gunner. He'd also returned kicks for Seattle, as well as being a depth guy in the passing game. So he reunites with Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. More details about NBA expansion emerging, where ESPN's Bobby Marks reports the Oklahoma City Thunder would cede all Supersonics history trademarks back to the new expansion Seattle team. And his colleague at ESPN, Brian Windhorst, says, Jeff, there will be multiple bids from both Seattle and Las Vegas looking to land franchises. Boy, you can understand why this is now a front burner issue for the NBA. Multiple bids in both cities, expected price tag somewhere between $7 and $10 billion. And Legion Hoops is reporting. So the current expansion draft rules, expansion teams will get to steal unprotected players from teams. So teams could protect 8 of their existing players. Any players on an expiring deal or as a restricted free agent would be ineligible for protection. 1 player lost per team. Contracts just move over to the new club. And then the kicker, if you're a Vancouver Grizzlies fan, expansion teams are going to get good NBA draft choices and chances at the first overall pick, Jeff.
Shame.
Only the Grizzlies had a chance at Tim Duncan or Allen Iverson, huh? You think that would have made a difference?
We'd be going, well, not tonight because the Canucks are playing, but we'd be going down to Rogers Arena to watch NBA basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe.
World Baseball Classic final tonight between the United States and Venezuela. Venezuela beat Italy last night in the semis to reach the final. Top Mets pitching prospect Nolan McLean going for Team USA. Eduardo Rodriguez of the Arizona Diamondbacks going for Venezuela. We were talking off air. This tournament really grew up this year. The fans got behind it, the players got behind it, and particularly the United States players got behind it.
Which I think is an absolute must at the end of the day. But to get a Canadian team that emerged and got through to the elimination round, Italy doing what it did, like there were some good stories that we haven't seen in years gone by, and that will just help build it up.
They have also priced it appropriately, Jeff, and that's why they got so many fans, and that's why they got such atmosphere in some of these stadiums, which was smart.
Do we know? Hopefully no pitch counts, are there? Like for a final game tonight? In a perfect world, you'd love to see one of the big name pitchers on the mound for a championship game, but I understand where they are, and we're getting close to opening day and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see where it goes. But I agree with you. Like I came in with sort of lukewarm interest, but I found myself drawn to a number of games and not just the Canadian ones.
Yeah, and boy, we were talking yesterday. The Canadians hung tough there Friday. Sure. It became compelling television down 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning on Friday evening. Blue Jays reassigned a number of players from minor league camp, including some familiar names for Vancouver Canadians fans. Sean Keyes set a season record last year for home runs in a season. I suspect he will be assigned to Double-A for opening day. Ditto for relief pitcher Javen Coleman, who was lights out with the C's last year, struck out 40 in 25 2/3. The Canadians find out their roster about a week before opening day. Lots of players get carried through to Major League camp, and then as they get sent down, the Blue Jays go about deciding which players are going to start at which level. The questions surround shortstop Arjun Nimmala. He's a top 3 organizational prospect. He struggled at the plate his last season, wore on with the C's. Great start, but hit just .224, struck out 116 times. It's odd because he hit well in the cold weather here in April and May, and where Nat Bailey's a very difficult place to hit in the cold weather, but he faded down the stretch. But he played here last year at age 19. He was some 3.5 years younger than the league average. He'll be 20 for the entirety of this season. So returning to Vancouver, having another chance here, got to graduate the level, wouldn't be the worst idea, even if it represents a lack of year-to-year stepping stone progress. The C's home opener is April 7th. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. And we're booking a game day at the new patio upstairs down the right field line. If you haven't heard, all the
we had
renovations.
fun out there early season last year.
Yes,
I remember we had
exactly.
A park.
Yes, so if you're not familiar, the C's have done a fair, extensive renovation, especially down the right field line at Nat Bailey, 75th anniversary of Nat Bailey Stadium, nay Capilano Stadium, here this year. By June 1st, that's the target date right now. They're hoping to open this new upstairs patio group section. It can be reserved for your outing It also will have a number of seats dedicated for just day use. So if you're a fan with a ticket anywhere in the ballpark, you can make your way up to those day use seats, first come, first serve, and watch the action from the new porch. You may remember they used to have the picnic area down the right field line. That has all been renovated. You got new facilities in place there. So looking forward to Nat Bailey's 75th anniversary, which the Seas will be celebrating with promotions all year, but also the new look of the ballpark as it gets a spruce up. Final results of yesterday's poll question. We asked you, do the Canucks owe Evander Kane his 1,000th game? Did you see the results?
I didn't. I weighed in on the poll question, and I said that, now owe is a
big word.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
But when they acquired him, they did the math. They had to know that this was a possibility. And he's come this far. It's a ridiculously exclusive club. Like, I was looking the other day, there's only 415 players. 415 players, but still, when you think how many players in the course of a season and how long the NHL's been around, it's an accomplishment, and it should be saluted. And, a couple of things here. Like, A, has he underperformed? Yes. Has every single Canuck underperformed this year? Yes, other than Phil Hronek. Local guy, and I just think, by all accounts and reports, there haven't been any distractions or disruptions with Evander in the locker room. You can question, has he played hard enough? Has he been physical? All that kind of stuff. But it sounds like he's been a pretty decent teammate.
Mm-hmm.
I think for his own good, he should have played a little harder with an eye to trying to land a contract for next year. I'm not sure that he's helped his own cause in that regard, and I think you saw that at the trade deadline. But yes, small O, I do think they owe it to Evander Kane to get to 1,000.
And 54% agreed with you. Balraj, you have to. These are the sorts of things that can have reputational consequences down the line when players are deciding to extend. Stein here, you don't want to be the club that's known as screwing over veterans. Plus, it's not like we have any young players we're dying to evaluate. Well, I would argue we are looking to evaluate young players, but I understand the point he's making. Canucks Girl says, yes, that would be real shitty not to. Colin, they don't owe him 1,000th game, but it would look terrible if they sat him out to miss it. And Diesel says, Kane has played hard, hasn't done anything negative here. Vancouver kid who played on the Giants. Come on, what are we doing here? I had a listener yesterday mention, no, they didn't want, because the club is Canucks who have celebrated 1,000 games. It's a very small club.
I heard you mention this yesterday.
Sedin's,
I think it's a lot longer list than you think it is.
I think I was led astray.
Yes.
It's the Sedin twins. It's Tyler Myers. It's Trevor Linden. I believe we missed Marcus Naslund yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Dave Babich, Ryan Walter, and Pitt Martin going way back.
Okay.
And that's from the Canucks PR staff this morning because I put that question to them. So
excellent.
That is the list as I've got it is 8, and Evander Kane would make the 9th member of that group.
Sticking with errors and omissions from yesterday's program, Blake said the slam dunk contest went away, and I sort of went, did they not do the slam dunk contest year to year? He's not wrong. They did the first one in 78. This is the NBA, when the ABA, of course, was doing it, or on the heels of the ABA. Then it went away till 1983. It ran to 98. They stopped it for a couple of seasons and then brought it back. So, yeah, there have been a couple of interruptions on the slam dunk contest year to year at the NBA All-Star Game. And we wondered if the old spaghetti factory is still there in Gastown. In fact, it is.
I drive past it almost every day on my way to the rink. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's there.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Thank you for sitting in, Jeff. He'll be back next week in that chair. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about and keep it local.